And Kevin Vickers joins us now. Hi, Mr. Vickers. It's such a pleasure to see you. Thank you for making the time.
Good afternoon, Vassy. How are you?
I'm good. More importantly, how are you today?
Great, Vassy. It's always a solemn day. I always think of Nathan Strilla's mother, Kathy. About a month or so after the incident, she came to see me in my office at Parliament Hill, and we had a great chat and explained to her all the wonderful work by so many great security guys that day. Explained to her my hero, Samron's son, who met Mr. Bebo when he came into the building, and his brave actions as an unarmed House of Commons security person. She brought me a gift, and for whatever reason, she was very thankful and grateful for myself taking time to meet with her, and we had a great conversation.
I think there are many Canadians, to be truthful, who are grateful for your actions that day. I've been speaking today to a lot of people who were involved in responding in some capacity or another. I have been struck by the degree to which what happened that day has stayed with them over the last decade. Has it stayed with you, and in what way?
It has. There's not a day that goes by that I don't think about it, Vassy. We're involved in taking someone's life. This is Canada. I had a hard time convincing people at the time of, potential of security breaches. You often heard at the time, well, this is Canada. It won't happen here. And it did happen here, and obviously it has profound consequences on the impact and memories of a lot of people.
And has it been difficult to think about that all over the years, as it has been for a lot of people who were involved?
Well, there's so many things that you think of. Vassy, at the time, we opened up a Master Security Plan Office. And that Master Security Plan Office was staffed by RCMP, Senate, and RCMP officers all working together to come up with plans to be integrated and to respond to such threats. And, one of the plans that we presented was to keep the parliamentary lawns completely open, unfettered access from anything from yoga to protest. But around the drives, we proposed to put a security wall, stone wall, waist high, and that anybody who wanted to access the drives or the parliamentary buildings would go through pedestrian security down on Wellington Street. And that wasn't approved, regrettably. And as you saw that day, Mr. Bebo was able to run right up on East Drive from Wellington Street. And so, I'm frustrated in some respects that, that wasn't put in place, for example.
I can imagine. Do you think that you mentioned sort of some of the responses at the time when you were trying to get people prior to this to take security seriously? And I get it. We all sort of have that sense of, we used to have that sense of being safe as Canadians. Do you feel what took place 10 years ago fundamentally altered that at all?
Well, obviously, we've seen some remarkable changes there at Parliament with regards to the security posture and the makeup of security. So it obviously did have a profound impact. At the time, I was really focused on getting everybody together, integrated, working together. We had House of Commons security embedded with Senate security. We had Senate security embedded with the House of Commons security. We had morning meetings involving the RCMP, the Senate, House of Commons, CSIS, RCMP, Gatineau and Ottawa Police, to try to ensure everybody knew exactly what was happening that given day for security. We call that a threat risk assessment that we did each day. And that drove the security posture of the day. And I remember that particular morning, Pat McDonnell, who's now the Sergeant at Arms, attended that meeting earlier that morning and coming back, and we were all very concerned, given what had happened in Quebec 2 days prior, as to what could take place. And there was discussions: should we close down visitors, tourism, like to the Parliament building, and a number of other options. But the outcome of that meeting was we're not quite there yet, but obviously we were in hindsight.
I was reading an interview in the Ottawa Citizen that just came out with you, and I was sort of struck that you hadn't talked about this for 10 years, that you hadn't done an interview for 10 years. Why didn't you want to talk about it in the interim?
Well, I think initially we spoke earlier about an exceptional young woman by the name of Heather Bradley, who's in charge of communications of the House. And Heather carried a big stick, and we paid attention to her, and if we were followed whatever direction she gave us. So for a period of time, there was certainly that. Then there's, I think, different accounts came out with different recollections, and I just thought it best to let things go and just live with my recollections of what happened myself. And 10 years on, I said, perhaps it's time to unload what I recall of the incident.
And please do excuse this if it's too personal and you don't in any way have to answer, but do you relive, I mean, that was such a part of our public conscience for so long, and the moments, were written about at length about what happened in those final moments in particular. Do you relive them at all?
Yes, I think of it, Vassy. When he first came into the building, 7 seconds when he came into the building, 7 seconds after coming into the building, he was shot multiple times. I believe one of the House of Commons security guys, Maxim Mallow, was behind that. But when I got out to the pillar next to him outside of the parliamentary library, he was having a tremendous difficult time breathing. It was a sickening sound. It was just something that, will stay with me forever. And, you're on one side of the pillar and he's on the other side of the pillar, and you're hearing this deep, wheezing, sickening sound of him trying to breathe. That stays with you.
Were you ever afraid in those moments?
I never once thought, and the four very brave RCMP officers that came up the Hall of Honor that day, he shot and fired towards them. And the moment he shot and fired, I dove out in front of him, firing my weapon, and I landed directly at his feet. And I looked up, he looked down, I looked up at him, and he looked down at me, and I continued to fire my weapon. And he fell down, not on top of me, but directly beside me. And then I had to kind of push myself back from him with my feet on my backside as I continued to fire my weapon.
Well, thank you, Mr. Vickers, for not only your courage that day, but for all your years of service. I appreciate you making the time to talk about this 10 years out.
Well, thank you, Vassy. And if I can just reiterate it again, yes. There were so many heroic guys that day, especially our House of Commons guys that were unarmed. I salute them and thank them from the bottom of my heart as well.
And we sure do here, too. Thank you so much, Mr. Vickers.
Thank you.